Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Scott and Jaime Show. I'm Scott with Velocity.
And I'm Jaime with Velocity.
Always with Velocity.
Always.
Always. We love Velocity. This week's topic is somber for the Scott and Jaime Show. It is the bombing in Boston. And if our faithful viewers who watch every week know, Hurricane Sandy hit us pretty hard because I grew up in New Jersey. But I feel like I've lived everywhere.
Yeah.
But I've also spent almost a decade of my life in Boston. And my sister lives there, and good friends live there. And so the things I've been hearing from them have been so tragic and so scary for so many people. And although we feel a bit distant from it in Washington, D.C., there are lessons that we hopefully can learn from tragedy. And Jaime, I think you want to talk a bit about post-traumatic growth here.
Sure. So we, in our coaching classes and in our one-to-one coaching, we often talk about how trauma impacts us and what are some of the stages of trauma. And I just wanted to talk about two of those stages because I think they're really relevant for what's happening in Boston right now. And the first stage is when a trauma first happens to you. Grief is obviously a big part of that trauma. And grief it shows up obviously as grieving and loss, but it also shows up as a loss of identity. So the folks who are living in Boston who did not experience a terrorist attack during 9/11 firsthand are feeling a real a loss of innocence, that something could happen this close to home. And that is really normal.
Right. Yeah, and especially because during 9/11, as crackpot as their motives were, the idea that they're going to focus on something business-oriented, the World Trade Center, something defense-oriented, the Pentagon, something politically oriented, the Capitol or the White House, that somehow you could wrap your hands around that mentality, which is still wrong, absolutely, but okay, political motivations, all right, it makes a little bit of sense in terms of the targeting. But the idea of a marathon makes you feel even more vulnerable, doesn't it?
Yep. And that stage for everybody in Boston or who knows somebody in Boston that's experiencing this, it's really normal to feel a loss of identity, a loss of innocence, and a fear like nothing will ever be the same.
Yes.
You know, that this is the line in the sand between pre this incident and post this incident.
And with so many children being affected, because there were a lot of children at the finish line, it's even more visceral. The 8-year-old boy who died from a place near Boston called Dorchester, really part of Boston, but a community called Ashmont, and how it was a family of many children, and they were so integral to the community. My mom used to always say, when you're scared, express.
Yes.
Express. And so allow your children to express and remind them that it's perfectly normal to be scared.
And I think post-traumatically, after you go through that grief stage, which may take time and may be a little bit cyclical, one of the big things that we recommend in this grief or post-traumatic growth cycle is sharing. That you share your experience with others, that you open up, that you don't bottle this up inside, but you really talk to other people about it. You talk to people who have had the same experience as you, so you feel the camaraderie and the companionship of somebody who's been through something you've been, but you talk to people who are close to you, who may not understand what's going on and may not understand why you're acting different or why you're upset about something that may not have personally impacted you, but just happened in the city that you live in.
Absolutely. And for any of those viewers out there who were touched personally, or just viewers out there who are hurting over this, remember to express, reach out to people you love, and know that you can gain solace from a community that you trust and from reaching out and sharing.
Yeah, and our love goes to those in Boston.
Absolutely. Go Boston. Go Celtics. All right, that's it for this week, and we'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Bye.